Hello, and thank you for joining me on this little trip that we're going to take from northern Tooele County in Utah, west of Salt Lake City, down to Sanpete County, where I used to live, and then back north to Tooele County again on a different route. We're just passing through Lake Point here and from Highway 36, and we're now heading eastbound on Interstate 80. We're currently about 20 miles west of Salt Lake City proper. And as we rapidly fly along here, this is sped up to 8 times normal speed. On the right, you can see the Kennecott smelter stack passing by, and I'm sure this is the case everywhere, but a Utah pastime is big trucks hanging out in the left lane where they don't belong. Anyway, to the right off screen is the Kennecott smelter operation, and these big hills on the right-hand side are the banks of the retention pond where they store all their wastewater. And so as we continue along here, speed limit in Utah is 75 to 80 on freeways in more remote areas. So I am technically speeding, but shh, don't tell. This is a pretty long straight trip, almost due east. And in the background, you can see the Wasatch Mountains. And it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to get from I-80 itself. We're coming up here to an area known as the International Center, which is mainly some office buildings, office park type place. And off to the left, off screen, right about here, we're passing the Salt Lake International Airport. And we're going to continue east. And here in this construction area, we're going to be getting off and heading southbound right here on Interstate 215 on the west side of Salt Lake City. And this is kind of a bypass route through to avoid the main I-15 in the city. And this is mostly West Valley City that we're passing through right now. We're heading almost due south. It used to be called the East Center. I'm not sure. I think it's the Maverick Center now. Big stadium. They hold concerts and other venues at on the left side a little while ago. As it makes the bend here, we're about halfway down through Salt Lake Valley. You got the big Wasatch Mountains in the background there, Mount Olympus, the Pfeiffer Horn, Lone Peak, and some others. I think Lone Peak, I might be wrong on that one. I can't remember all the names. And now we're going to rejoin I-15 proper. I say rejoin. We're joining I-15 proper. We bypassed it up north. Always construction here, it seems like. Now we're heading south towards... We're leaving Murray. We're heading into the town of Sandy. And this is a large suburb of Salt Lake. It has the largest buildings outside of Salt Lake City itself. As we continue south here, we're now approximately entering Draper. And in the background, that hill is what's known as Point of the Mountain. And this is a rise where you go up and around and drop down into Utah Valley from the Salt Lake Valley. And in winter, this is where there's always a lot of accidents and a lot of snow, and it's a big area of congestion, especially with all the growth that we've been having. Point of the Mountain is also a very popular hang gliding location. There's good thermals come up from both sides. Now we've gone over the Point of the Mountain. We're heading down into Utah Valley. And this is entering Lehigh and American Fork. And this is an area that's becoming known as the Silicon Slopes. because Adobe and a bunch of other tech companies have set up some small headquarters type buildings here. And it's getting to be a very popular location with software development. And we're well down into Utah County now. South of Lehigh, we have Pleasant Grove. And what used to be the location of Geneva Steel would be off to the right. Geneva Steel was the big Utah County industry for a long time until the plant was shut down. And then south of Pleasant Grove is the pretty big city of Orem and Provo. Both of them have nearly 100,000 people. And again, you've got the Wasatch Mountains on the left side as we're heading south. We're going past Mount Timpanogos on the left, off screen. And far in the south, you can see Spanish Fork Peak. All right, now we are in Orem, heading into Provo. Again, heading straight south on I-15 for the most part. Provo, of course, is home to BYU. It's one of the oldest settlements in the state. As we head south out of Provo here, the next town is Springville and Mapleton. Again, all off to the left. You can see a gap in the mountains there on the left-hand side. That's what we're going to be heading north. Or, excuse me, we're going to be heading east through that canyon, Spanish Fork Canyon. And we're getting off here in Spanish Fork, and we're going to be joining Highway 6 eastbound. Spanish Fork is rapidly growing here at this freeway exit. It's been completely redone in the last few years. And Highway 6 has a very bad reputation in the state as being one of the most dangerous highways because it winds through the canyon and there's no center divider. And further on than we'll be going, it narrows down to 2 lanes and it carries a lot of heavy truck traffic. So there are a lot of accidents. And in winter, it gets that much worse because you're going through some pretty high elevations when you get to the top and start down into Ward Price. So we've got some wind generation there on the right-hand side. I don't know how much they generate, but those turbines have been there for quite a while. But this right here is what most of Spanish Fork Canyon is like. A lot of traffic. 2 lanes, no divider. And yeah, a crash in here can close the entire highway for hours, and there's no alternate route short of going south almost 40 miles. So as we begin the ascent up Spanish Fork Canyon, on the right-hand side is an area known as Thistle. And in 1983, there was a massive mudslide that came down the mountain. You can see just a little bit on the right-hand side right there where that mountain came down. And it blocked the Spanish Fork River and built up an enormous pile of water behind it. It completely submerged the former town of Thistle and is one of the great disasters in state history. We're coming down below off the highway. This was completely underwater in 1983. And I had to make a quick pit stop here. But this was all under 50 feet of water in 1983 from the slide. And if you watch closely on the left, you'll see what's left of a house that's just still sitting in swamp right there on the left right now. And all this was underwater. The highway was closed for several months, which meant long detours, but they managed to blast through and get the rail line back up and running in just a very short period of time. It was almost record-breaking time to drill through almost 2 miles of the mountain. And I can't remember if it was 2 miles. It was a long distance, though. It was a record-breaking excavation to get the train running again. And so we're now on Highway 89 South, heading into southern Utah County. And we're in an area known informally as Birdseye. It's not really a town per se, but there's a lot of ranches and farms scattered all through here. And this is a beautiful drive, especially when it's green like this. I really miss living down here. I just wish there was more opportunities than there are, because if you're not into farming and you aren't a member of a family that's already got a business or something working down here, it's pretty slim pickings for any kind of well-paying job. So we're about to pass from Utah County into Sanpete County, right there where the pavement changes. And now this area through here is known as Indianola. And a few years back, about 2008 or 10, I can't remember, there was a massive fire on the right-hand side, on the west side of this road, that burned a lot of cabins and tens of thousands of acres. There used to be a lot more junipers on these hills than there are now on the right-hand side of the road. So we're beginning our ascent out of Indianola Valley. To the left, at the top of the summit, which is about 6,400 feet, around about 2,000 meters roughly, a little less. On the left-hand side of the highway is Birdseye, another bunch of farming communities. And we're beginning our descent into the Sanpete Valley. And those mountains up ahead are all connected to the Wasatch Range. This is the southern Wasatch Mountain Range, but it's one continuous, almost unbroken range all the way from the northern state border all the way south through the state. And we're entering the town of Fairview here. Nice community of about 1,000 people. Again, continuing south on Highway 89. And this again is just lush and green, or it happened to be this time of year. There's been a lot of rain this spring, and so it was still nice and green in early July. By the end of July and early August, all this is brown except for the irrigated fields. Lots of sprinkler irrigation. You can see some of the sprinklers. And yes, that is a working drive-in theater. And this is entering Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant is where I used to live for quite a while. About 15 years. About 3,000 people live in Mount Pleasant. It's home to Wasatch Academy, which is a private high school, in addition to its own high school. And I made a quick U-turn there. I come down here to get my hair cut and visit family I've still got here, and come down every couple of months. But I needed to go to the bank and forgot. So here's a look at Mount Pleasant's Main Street, and quick stop at the ATM here. We're going to go down and take this little side road past Wasatch Academy's main buildings. It's a pretty big complex, actually. It's privately run. Students from all over the world come there. We'll park here at the south end of town real quick, and this is the south end of Mount Pleasant, where I stopped and had a quick bite to eat. Back in the car, and we're going to take a different route home. We're going to get off of Highway 89 here, come back up to the main intersection in town. And sorry this is blurry. I don't know why the dash cam was locked focused on something inside or the glare on the windshield, but we're going to head westbound. I can never remember the highway numbers. I think it's 118 or 132, Utah something or other highway. We're heading west toward the town of Moroni. Again, you can see this is almost completely farmland, ranches, very rural, very dark skies at night. It's a wonderful place to retire to if you've got the means and don't need to live near a bunch of big city lights. Just not a lot to do here if you're in your employment age. Excuse me. And here we're entering Moroni itself, the town of Moroni. It's about 1,000 people, 1,200. Nice little town. Not a lot of business, just mostly homes. Now we're heading north and westwards toward the town of Nephi. But we're going to go through the town of Fountain Green first. It was a great day for driving. About 85 degrees, could keep the window down the whole trip. It was great. In the background, that big snow-covered mountain you can see there is Mount Nebo, one of the taller peaks in the state at almost 12,000 feet. I think it's 11,900. And this is the town of Fountain Green, about 500, 600 people. And this is another pretty high summit. It's well over 6,000 feet. And another one of those spots that in winter is not fun to drive. There's a lot of blowing snow across here. You can see those snow guards on the left side of the road all the way along to try to mitigate that. Good view of Mount Nebo there. Mount Nebo itself is the leftmost peak of the three highest. And now we're entering Salt Creek Canyon, named for the creek that runs along here. This is another gorgeous drive, especially in the autumn when the leaves are turning. Lots of interesting geology and rock colors, and when it's green like this, it's quite beautiful. Again, it's just a mostly two-lane crawl, so you get stuck behind a truck like I am here, and you get to test your patience. Now we're coming out of the canyon, and this is I-15 here, running still south out of Utah County into Juab County, where Nephi is located. Quick stop for gas here and give the windshield a wash. Now we're in Nephi itself. Nephi is growing pretty rapidly. It's the southernmost of the towns that are growing as bedroom communities for Provo and Salt Lake City. It's a long commute to Salt Lake City, but you can be to Provo in 25-30 minutes. We're heading west out of Nephi on Highway 6 again. The same one we went up Spanish Fork Canyon on. Highway 6 basically is part of I-15 down to Nephi, and then this picks it back up right here. Or no, I beg your pardon, this is not Highway 6, I'm sorry. Highway 6 comes out of Eureka. But we will be on Highway 6 soon. So this big ascent here drops us down into an area known as Dog Valley. And there's been no development out here, and I have meant to look up why. Because it seems strange that in a broad, clear valley like this that somebody would have been farming it, but I'm not sure why they haven't. This gives you an idea of what a lot of rural Utah looks like outside of the cities. Mountains off in the distance, sage and junipers. There's a lot of areas like this in the state. And so we're turning onto an old highway, I can't remember the number, that's now just a bypass and a shortcut up to a recreation area known as Little Sahara Sand Dunes. And this is a fun ride. And I want you to notice how long we go without seeing a car, and this is one reason I love this trip on this road. You can go for half an hour and see nobody. Another quick pit stop here. There's no rest areas, and nobody's going to know. Whole lot of nothing. And if there was more water, of which there is not, you could put an awful lot of people out here. Alright, we're coming to the end of this road, and now we are going to be on Highway 6. We're heading kind of northwestwards on Highway 6. As we were coming south to Spanish Fork, these mountains you can see up ahead of us and to the right of us, they were on our west, and now we're on the back side of them, so they're to the east. Again, a lot of empty space for mile after mile. And yes, that was a rest area, and it's closed. Why, I don't know. I don't know why there's a rest area there. It's also a good place to just sort of cut loose once in a while, but pay no attention to the speed down there. Obviously a GPS malfunction. A lot of mining went on in this area of the state. Eureka and the towns around it were very active mining communities. I mean, straight out of Old West movies back in the day. Ophir, Silver City, Tintic, Eureka, all these areas were very productive mines for a long time. More GPS glitches. And now we're on Highway 36. We're going to be leaving Juab County, and soon we'll be entering Tooele County, which is my current home. And that's not something you see very often, a semi able to pass somebody. Bless their hearts. So there's no towns along Highway 36 here and Highway 6 that I was on for about 50 miles. The next town we do come to is named Vernon, but that'll be a little bit. And look out, deer. There's a few scattered houses here and there. Some old ghost towns scattered around. Lofgren, Topliff. A few other names completely out of the past. Great skies for this whole trip. Got a pretty good arm tan holding my arm out the window. So as we come over this hill, we're coming toward the town of Vernon. Up ahead on the right. And Vernon's very small, just a few hundred people. Really out in the middle of nowhere. And on the right, the mountain range is the Oquirrhs, which are on the west side of Salt Lake Valley, the east side of Tooele Valley. And the mountains on the left are part of the Stansbury Range. The tallest one in the distance is Deseret Peak. If you look to the right, you can see some faint mountains in the distance. That's the Wasatch Range in Salt Lake City. Those are the mountains that we were heading straight toward for a while. Highway 36, interestingly, in winter, south of the town of Vernon, they just close it down if it snows. They don't even bother plowing after 10 p.m. If you're on that road in a snowstorm after 10 p.m., you're on your own. They need to keep the plows further north. The Deseret Chemical Weapons Incinerator was up here on the right-hand side. That's where they were getting rid of America's stockpile of VX nerve gas and other not-so-fun chemicals for quite a while. It's no longer in operation. It completed its duties and is now just sitting empty. But we still get the alerts, the test alerts every Wednesday afternoon with the warning sirens, sort of like one of those emergency broadcast system alerts. A little creepy, but Tooele County has, for the longest time, been seen as kind of a place to dump all the unwanted industries and activities in the state, because who's going to complain? Everybody else outnumbers us. So we're coming to the little town of Stockton, which is the first town since Vernon. Again, not very big. A few hundred folks. There was a lot of road construction going on here I wasn't aware of, so we had to sit with the flag guy for a while. Mind you, it didn't look like there was much road work going on anywhere. And now we're entering Tooele Valley. On the left side of the road is the Tooele Army Depot. I'm sure a good spot for a nuclear weapon if there ever was a war. And we're getting close to Tooele City itself. And again, these mountains in the background, those are the Ochre Mountains. Roughly 9,000 to 10,000 feet tall. Now we're dropping into Tooele City itself. It's a pretty good size, about 30,000 people. The valley itself is larger than that, of course, with Stansbury Park, Grantsville, Erda, and some other communities. There's about 50,000 people all told in the valley now, or in the county. And this is the newer half of Tooele that's grown up quite recently in comparison to the rest of the city. All the newer shopping and chain locations are up here on this end of town. And with that, our trip is just about finished. The next town up the road here is Erda. And that's round about where I check out. So I thank you for joining me on this trip. And I hope you have a good morning, evening, or whatever it is in between. Take care of yourselves.